Sex, Lies, and Trauma, Part 4. Something is wrong with the prefrontal cortex. Hello there, I'm Dr. Paul Stoller, and the video you are about to watch is derived from an article I wrote for a peer-reviewed journal. I have already touched on the thrill seeker, but because they represent as much as 50% of the population, to a greater or lesser degree, we need to go into more detail. Their prefrontal cortex is hypoperfused, meaning adequate blood flow is not feeding that part of the brain. If they get involved in something exciting, blood flow returns to their prefrontal cortex, and they feel alive and focused. These are your extreme skiers, paragliders, skydivers, freestyle rock climbers, and even scuba divers, that is, people who are impulsive risk takers. They made great hunters because not only would they take risks, they enjoyed taking risks and even went out of their way to take risks. In other words, it provided an evolutionary advantage for those hunters. These folks see stability as boring. They do not make ideal candidates for long-term relationships. Now, if you were to ask them if they want an unstable home life filled with drama, they would certainly deny that. But that is exactly what they would create because it makes them feel alive. They often have affairs because of the rush of being wanted, the ego boost that someone else desires them, which then increases blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. They choose betrayal because they want both the security of someone loyal along with the excitement of someone new. They want the best of both worlds. The endless hunger for external validation that can stimulate blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. Without that part of the brain online, they simply don't have the psychological tools to control their impulses. They can't be loyal as their need to stimulate their compromised brains overrides everything else in their life. Even the mildest brain injury will decrease impulsivity control. Add a mild traumatic brain injury to someone who already has marginal impulse control and ethical disorientation, and you have a recipe for disaster. If there is brain injury involved, it could have originated at birth. Squeezing one's head through a keyhole is traumatic, and sometimes anoxic, meaning a lack of oxygen to the brain. But just because one doesn't have cerebral palsy doesn't mean one's brain got through the birthing process unscathed. Cerebral palsy is an umbrella term that covers many symptoms of birth brain injury that don't always manifest the same from one person to the next. Then again, it could have been after-school soccer, for example. What part of the brain is right behind the forehead where all those soccer balls are headed? Yep, the prefrontal cortex. Then there was that bike accident in 4th grade. In both addiction and thrill-seeking, there is often reduced activity or hypoperfusion in the prefrontal cortex. Obviously, this has major implications for inhibitory control, basically stopping oneself from doing something that feels good but is bad long-term. What are the two most common excuses given by those committing adultery who get caught aside from, "It's not what it looks like," or "It was a mistake"? Those two excuses are, 1, "I wasn't thinking," and 2, "It just happened." Usually, over and over. This is exactly what someone who has no impulse control would say. Not to imply everyone who cheats on their partners is brain damaged, but if the shoe fits, they weren't thinking. Well, of course they weren't. Only their egos were engaged. The lizard brain. When you are not in control of your own impulses, things do just happen. So, unintentionally, these classic cheater excuses may have some verisimilitude to them. Entertaining the possibility that subclinical brain injury may not only be pervasive but at the root of relationship issues, it is worth unpacking how those affected think, or don't think in this case, when it comes to infidelity. The affair partner understood me, a common justification. However, what exactly did the affair partner understand? That the cheater put everyone in their family at potential health risk? Or that the cheater is a liar? Or that they betrayed their entire family for a good time? Is that the kind of understanding one wants? Is it understanding that is being sought after? Or enabling that is sought after? Someone to justify one's dishonesty. Someone to stand at one's side while home and family are destroyed. That is the kind of understanding the affair partner will have. Only someone with little to no self-respect would tolerate that kind of understanding. That is neither love nor connection. That is mutual dysfunction, not understanding. Then there is the line about the affair partner making them feel seen. One gets seen if all one shows is the version of self that is easy to love, free of baggage, responsibility, and real-life stress that comes with long-term commitment. They don't see the cheater exhausted or frustrated. They don't see the cheater come home and unload their disappointments after a long day. They don't witness the cheater's worst moments or love them through these events. One feels seen when one only shows the pleasant parts of oneself. Of course they feel seen, the fantasy version of them. A fantasy stitched together out of dissatisfaction, projection, and a desire to be validated. But fantasies only last until reality shows up with bills, expectations, and the lack of any true connection. One can't build on a foundation of lies. Let me call a spade a shovel here. This planet is a game, as I have already alluded to, and we are the players. I call the game Find the Light in the Dark game, but we are blindfolded. We don't know the rules, at least most of us don't. And we don't even know who we are. We don't need to know all the rules if we only followed the golden rule, but few do, so we learn the hard way. It is a choice how we conduct ourselves in this game, but don't think for 1 minute you can do whatever you want without consequences. Hormones don't just control the quality of our lives, but seem to control the direction of our lives as well. If you don't agree, then ask, why would someone make a decision to burn down hearth and home for some attention and an ephemeral dopamine hit? There are CEOs that blew their careers because they could not stop flirting with interns. Physicians who could not stop texting their patients. This is not love. It is 100% ego, undoubtedly brought on by hormones, and a prefrontal cortex that is not engaged. External stimulus releases adrenaline, which leads to a norepinephrine surge. Heart rate and blood pressure go up along with arousal. Dopamine kicks in due to novelty or reward, lighting up attention and the oxytocin reward circuits. The person feels alive, alert, and laser-focused. How often has it been asked, why would someone destroy their marriage or long-term relationship, or even their life over some sexual hanky-panky? The answer? Lack of impulse control. This is the end of part 4.